What if today your phone rang and you heard your own child crying, "Mom, please help me"? Would you stop for even a second to wonder, what if that voice wasn't real? What if it had been created in just a few seconds using artificial intelligence, an AI-generated voice clone? This is the story of a family who trusted a single phone call and lost their entire life savings within minutes. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening in Chicago, Illinois. 45-year-old Sarah Williams was home alone. Her husband hadn't returned from work yet, and her 17-year-old son Adam had gone to basketball practice with his friends after school. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Soft music was playing throughout the house. Everything felt perfectly normal. Then her phone rang. An unknown number appeared on the screen. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then answered the call. "Hello?" There was silence for a few long seconds. Then she heard a teenage boy crying, "Mom." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Adam?" The boy cried desperately. "Mom, please help me. I'm in serious trouble. Please, don't hang up." Sarah's hands began to shake. The voice sounded exactly like her son Adam. The same tone, the same way of speaking. Even the way he breathed between sobs was identical. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "Adam, what happened? Where are you?" Before he could say another word, a strange man's voice came onto the line. "Mrs. Williams, your son has been taken into custody after a serious accident. If you want to keep this case out of court, you must follow our instructions immediately." Sarah felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She had no idea that the voice she trusted without question wasn't her son's voice at all. Sarah's hands were shaking uncontrollably. She asked in a panicked voice, "What happened to my son? Is he hurt?" The man on the other end replied in a calm but firm tone, "Your son's car was involved in a serious accident. The situation is very serious. If you cooperate, we can settle this before it goes to court." Tears began streaming down Sarah's face. "Please, let me speak to my son, just once." After a few moments of silence, the same crying voice returned. "Mom, please, I'm so scared. Just do what they're telling you. Please, get me out of here." Sarah's heart shattered. Not for a single moment did she question it, because the voice sounded exactly like her son, Adam. The caller took the phone back. "We don't have much time. If you transfer $8,000 within the next 15 minutes, this matter will be resolved. But if you call anyone or contact the police, your son's situation could become much worse." Hearing those words, Sarah completely panicked. She quickly opened her laptop, logged into her online banking account. Her life savings were sitting in that very account. Her hands were shaking so badly that she entered her password incorrectly twice. Finally, she logged in. Following the caller's instructions, she transferred the money. A few seconds later, a notification appeared on her phone. "Transfer successful." Sarah immediately said, "I've sent the money, now let me talk to my son." There was complete silence on the other end of the line. Then, the call suddenly disconnected. Sarah immediately tried calling the number back, but all she heard was, "The number you are trying to reach is unavailable." Once, twice, 5 times, the same message every time. For the first time, a terrifying thought crossed Sarah's mind. What if this was all a lie? At that exact moment, the doorbell rang. Sarah ran toward the front door. She opened it, and the moment she saw who was standing there, she froze. It was Adam, completely safe, his school backpack hanging over one shoulder, a confused look on his face. "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" Sarah's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. She finally understood. The voice she had trusted was never her son's. It had been created by someone else using artificial intelligence. Sarah stood frozen at the front door for several moments. Tears continued to stream down her face. She immediately wrapped Adam in a tight embrace. You're okay, aren't you?" Adam looked at her in confusion. "Yes, Mom. But what happened?" Sarah's voice trembled. "About 30 minutes ago, I got a call from you. You were crying. You said you were in trouble." Adam quickly shook his head. "No, Mom. I never called you. My phone was locked in my locker during basketball practice." The moment Sarah heard those words, a cold chill ran through her entire body. Now she knew for certain. She had become the victim of a sophisticated scam. A few minutes later, Sarah and her husband arrived at the nearest police station. They explained everything that had happened. The police officer listened carefully. Then he spoke quietly. Unfortunately, you're not the first person to report this kind of scam this week. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. What do you mean? The officer opened a file on his desk. It contained reports from several different families. One family had lost $5,000. Another had lost $12,000. And others had lost even more. But there was one shocking detail. Every case had something in common. Every victim had said the exact same thing. The voice sounded exactly like someone I loved. At that very moment, in another part of the city, several computer monitors glowed inside a dimly lit apartment. 3 people worked quietly. One of them wore headphones, listening to recordings of different people's voices. Another searched through names, phone numbers, and publicly available family information on a computer. The third person looked up and asked, "Is the next number ready?" "Yes, this time, it's another family." At that moment, a newly generated voice played through the speakers. "Mom, please help me." Everyone in the room smiled. To them, it wasn't just a voice. It was a way to steal thousands of dollars. But what they didn't know was that the police had already begun to understand how the scam worked, and one small mistake was about to bring them much closer to justice. The next morning, Sarah received a call from the Cybercrime Investigation Unit. "Mrs. Williams, we're actively working on your case. But first, we need to ask you a few questions." Sarah immediately went to the police headquarters. The lead investigator asked, "Has your son recently posted any videos or audio recordings of himself on social media?" Sarah thought for a moment. Then suddenly she remembered. Yes, about 2 weeks ago, Adam uploaded a video from his school's basketball tournament. He was speaking in the video for about a minute. The investigator nodded seriously. "We believe the criminals used publicly available audio like that to create an AI clone of his voice. That's why every single word sounded completely real to you." Sarah fell silent. She couldn't believe that a single public video could become part of such a devastating scam. Meanwhile, the cybercrime team continued gathering evidence. Investigators carefully reviewed reports from multiple victimized families. Several patterns quickly emerged. The calls followed nearly the same script. The victims were pressured to transfer money immediately, and they were warned not to contact anyone else. During the investigation, the team uncovered a crucial lead. That lead pointed them to an organized criminal network targeting victims across multiple states. A few days later, law enforcement agencies launched a coordinated operation. Search warrants were executed at several locations simultaneously. Multiple suspects were arrested, and numerous electronic devices were seized as evidence. The investigation was still ongoing, but one thing had become clear. This wasn't just the story of one family. It was part of a large-scale, organized financial fraud operation. A few weeks later, Sarah received another call from her bank. "Mrs. Williams, we've completed the review of your case. We've begun the process of reimbursing your financial loss." Sarah let out a deep sigh of relief. Although she would never forget those terrifying moments of fear and helplessness, she had learned a lesson that would stay with her forever. Whenever you receive an emergency phone call, don't panic. Verify the facts first, because in today's world, not every voice you hear actually belongs to the person you think it does. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to Money Mysteries for more thrilling financial and cybercrime stories inspired by real events.